but it's more than basic. It's a portion of its rap, but the core is ancient. It's supported like a pack of some more observations. They're important like the fact that we're bored of fake shit. More creative, have the floor, so take it. Travel to the core is a normal placement. Tattoos on my arm in a form of...
Happy Monday, guys. For everyone who is on social media right now posting "Steal my team," look, no one expects you to be a goddamn serial killer who goes around dropping your team after a loss. That's not what fans do. It's not what team supporters do. You're not being a goddamn hero by sticking with your loser team. You're just doing what everyone else does when their team is having a bad season. I'm sorry your team's having a bad season. Maybe next season will be better. But I don't expect you all to just jump over to the goddamn 49ers just because the Atlanta Falcons suck dick or just because, suck-ass team A is having a bad week. That's not how it works. And you're not going to get any extra kudos or extra love just because your team isn't that great, you know? You're supposed to keep supporting your team. So, guys, keep supporting your loser-ass team. But do it in private. You know, you but do it in public. But you ain't got to go on social media talking about, well, they're still my team. Of course, it's still your team. There's nothing special about that. All fans are equal, except for you Cowboys fans. You guys are fucking stupid for putting up with that shit for another week. Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna put that out there. This is Tattoo with Children. I'm your host, Flavor Ray, in Seat A. Across from me in Seat B is the Dread Pirate Benjamin. Across from us both is the man who cannot lose, CIO No Pain.
What's up?
Oh, it's Monday, Ben.
Yeah.
It's Monday, and we did a podcast on Friday.
Yeah.
And apparently, I learned some things about myself after the podcast from people reacting to the podcast.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Apparently, Ben, I don't understand that parents are busy. I didn't know that. Apparently, I don't understand that moms and dads who work don't have time to take care of themselves. Because they have, get this, Ben, they have little people who depend on them. Did you know that shit?
No.
Like little tiny copies?
Like little. Here, let me. I'm just gonna read it. I'm just gonna fucking read something. Am I the only busy mom who's tired of the self-care advice out the ass? Like, I really don't think that anyone skips manicures and yoga class and salon cuts and long hot baths because they just don't want anything to do with those things. I'm sure there are people in the same boat as me where 99% of the time, that stuff is in no way possible or doable, and it ends up being the most annoying advice I've ever heard. You can't pour from an empty cup. Like, okay, Janice, I'm not a cup, I'm a fucking person, and I gotta keep on pouring whether I want to or not because time people depend on me to live. I mentioned this advice is no longer to be given, no matter how well-intentioned. I said it comes with a concrete babysitting offer. Okay, let me see a show of hands out there. Raise your hands if you are a busy parent and cannot find time for self-care. You've got your kids, you've got your job, your time is used up. You cannot self-care. Show your hands, all right? All right, got those hands up. Yay, okay. Raise your hands if you know a couple, a person like you, who is getting a divorce today. Oh. Okay. Raise your hands if your kids are on ariprazole, Clonidine, or Trazodone. Oh, there we go. Okay. So let me ask you this, Larry Limpdick. Do you think that not doing self-care is making you an excellent husband and father? Let me ask you this, Katie Cuntface, who Do you think that not having self-care is making you a wonderful wife and mother? Do you think that you're taking 12 shots of alcohol, 12 glasses of wine a week, and 2 opioids a day to get through life is making you just stellar? No? Well, then maybe you should change something. Maybe something's different needs to happen. See, this is my whole problem with adults. You know exactly what you're supposed to do. It's not confusing to you. You're not confused. See, this is just you lying. You saying that I don't have enough time for self-care is the biggest lie you've told since you told your kids a fat fuck in a red suit will crawl down their chimney and leave them goodies and they needed milk and cookies to make it happen. You are a fucking liar, and you're not going to come at me because I care about you. Because that's what you're doing. You're coming at me because I give a shit. Well, fuck that and fuck you. I'm not having this anymore. You've got the goddamn time. You've got the goddamn money. You just don't fucking do it. And it's not just you. It's me too. I don't do it either. I'm just not going to fucking lie about it.
So, an interesting perspective here is I like to sometimes, let's be real, all the time, frame things in a different light so that maybe people, maybe myself, I'm a person, can get a different perspective on something. So when you go to basic training in the military, pretty much any military, there is a man or woman there who is hired to make your life a living hell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That person's only job is to destroy you.
Yeah.
And see, that this is where I think part of the problem comes in with adults, okay? Because I know what Larry and Sally would say immediately after that sentence. They would actually interrupt that sentence to say, no, their job is to build you back up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Whoa.
Nope.
Why, Larry and Sally, are you such a dickwad that you ignored what had to happen for 8 to 12 weeks? Apparently, because we haven't made a movie about it, because Ross from Friends hasn't shown you on the telly what boot camp looks like, you don't realize how many people drop out of boot camp.
How many times they drop out? How many times people actually die?
They drop out, they quit, they're injured beyond returning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The reality is they pay someone to destroy you. Now, the interesting thing that I'm trying to get to about this is we could all hire that tall motherfucker. He's kind of dark skinned. He's real tall. He goes around the country doing promotional things. He's real well known. He's a self-help guru. What is his name?
I have no idea who it is.
You have no idea?
It could be the man from Tony Robbins.
Yes, thank you.
Oh,
Tony Robbins.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. All right. Tony Robbins.
You got it.
We could hire Tony Robbins to run a boot camp.
Yeah, we could.
Okay? And by the way, Tony Robbins, from what I've observed, is an incredibly kind individual.
I believe he is.
Okay? I actually like the guy.
No, I like him too.
Okay? So we get to spend 12 weeks with Tony Robbins. Okay?
All right.
Me and you, right?
Yeah, me and you.
Okay? And then they take what is known as a helicopter, and they drop me and you on the 13th week in Mogadishu.
All right.
Okay?
Like I'm fine. I was gonna take off all my shit and sit on the curb and chill.
Okay? All right? And they want
You're
us,
fucked.
and they want us they want us to succeed.
Right.
Okay? Let me ask you this. How far can you actually describe what Tony Robbins did for that 12 weeks as a kindness to me and you now that we're dead, 1 block from where we were dropped off in Mogadishu?
I can describe it as a job.
Okay,
That he
but,
did.
but we're dead now.
But yeah, like, is it a kindness to me and you? No.
No, okay.
To me, like, he didn't actually do anything for me.
Okay.
He was trying to get me into a helicopter so he could drop me off in the middle of Mogadishu. That's what he was trying to do.
So now, if I put a racist, homophobic, motherfucking asshole with me and you for 12 weeks, and we actually survive that first block,
it's like, wow.
Wouldn't that actually be considered a kindness?
It would definitely be better than dying, I believe.
Okay. So, again, one of the problems with this conversation that you're bringing up is that people think kindness is what Tony Robbins does, and that's what they want to experience.
Right.
But if you're dead, I'm going to argue that it wasn't a kindness. It was actually a disservice. He actually, as good as a human as he is, and we both stated we believe he is.
Yes.
He actually did not, in fact, do us a kindness. He did us a disservice.
Yes.
Because now we're dead. And the number one moral, ethical code of the human is to survive.
Yes.
So, Tony Robbins actually stopped that from happening. So, to Tony Robbins, in this hypothetical situation, I say, fuck you.
I agree.
And I want the racist, homophobic, fucking asshole to teach me how to stay alive. I will not consider it a kindness now.
Yeah, while he's kicking me in the asshole and calling me a nigger, I'm going to be upset.
Yes, you are. But after the fact, you're going to go, wow, that dude was such a prick, and I do not ever want him to meet my family. I don't ever want him to know where I live. I don't ever want him to know that I have children. But that was a real kindness he did, keeping me alive.
Yeah. It's what the Easy Company back in World War II said about Captain Sobel.
He didn't understand half those words, by the way.
No, I did.
No, I know he got that.
He knows I've read Sobel.
Like, yeah, they hated that motherfucker.
Yes.
They hated Currahee Mountain. They hated everything about that son of a bitch. And when they went home after the war...
Continue.
When they went home after the war, they said to a man, everything that happened over there, Captain Soul prepared me for. I had more stamina. I had more grit. I had enough anger to kill a motherfucker when I had to. Like, it's, guys, the whole idea that I'm trying to get across to you is that right now we're not making it. Like, you're coming at me and saying that no, you're fine. That's what you're saying when you're saying I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time to do this. I have to do what I'm doing. That's all I have time for.
You got just as much time as the bitches that only survived by sucking dick. You got just as much time as the bitches that only survived digging holes. You got just as much time as the bitches that only survived by working from the moment they were born until the moment they died in a coal hole in the ground. And it wasn't that long ago. And if you listen real carefully, I'm going to tell you a secret. It's still going on today.
Every day. Every day. People, you've got all the time that you could ever want. And by the way, you have all the time you're ever going to fucking get. If you don't have the time now, you want the time later, then what is the point of what you're doing? You're not making any sense when you tell me you don't have time to take care of yourself.
Well, I have kids, so I can't do that. Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me get this straight. The human race has gotten to 2019. Oh my God, I'm having an epiphany. Hold on. Sally and Larry are the first people to have children.
They're the first ones.
How could we have missed this, Ray? The rest of us apparently got here by immaculate conception.
Yeah, and we picked up all this shit through osmosis, I suppose.
Do you understand? It's not just that you're not telling the truth. It's that you're actually being intentionally fucking stupid. You're not the first person. The actual only way you got here is that your parents put the penis in the vagina, and now you're here. And I'm as sorry about it as you are.
Yeah, it sucks.
But that's what happened. You're not the first. Currently, there's a good chance you'll be the last.
Sure, if that makes you feel
keep
better.
up that kind of thought process.
It makes you feel better. Your line probably ends with you because you can't take 5 minutes out to go get your fucking head straight long enough to keep your kids alive.
And see, that's
because here's the thing about it here. You're killing yourselves right now, and so is your children. Your children learn everything from you. They learn to lie by watching you lie. I heard you just say, well, I don't lie to my kids. No, I don't lie to my kids either. But I lie in front of my kids. I have to, because so much of my existence is based on lies. I have to react to them. I have to say, no, Ma, you look great today. I have to say to my dad, no, it's fine that you have 3 drinks in your hand right now and are working on the 4th. You know, you're an old man. You're entitled to. I have to say shit like that. Guys, they learn to lie from us. We cannot blame them for being untruthful children when they learned everything from us. And when they start to kill themselves, like they're doing, you have to realize they learned that from you too. Right. You don't think that they know. You really think that thing that you do with that person you're not supposed to do it with is being missed by your kids?
Right.
Is that what you think?
Right. Are you under the impression that when you wait until 2 o'clock in the morning and the family is asleep and you go in the bathroom and masturbate to that Asian chick, are you under the impression that your kids don't know?
Do you think that they're confused of what you're doing in there?
By the way, I'm just gonna throw this out there. Your kids fucking know.
Yeah, they know.
And 3 of your kids are sitting at this podcast right now on Tattooed with Children telling you that we know.
Hi.
And it fucked us up.
Hi, Mom and Dad.
We know how many pills you're taking. Everything you don't want us to hear, we hear.
Yeah.
We know what you do to get through each day.
We know how much weed you smoke.
And that thing that you were sure I didn't hear that night.
Right.
Yeah, I heard it that night.
And also, all that money you spent on KFC, Taco Bell, and McDonald's while I was at school, I know you did it because you're not that good at hiding it. Your fucking ass smells like a beefy 5-layer burrito.
Like a triple Whataburger.
I live with you. I know. I know what you did. And that's how I learned to lie. And that's how I learned to do what I had to do to stay sane. And I'm hoping that now, unfortunately, we find ourselves in this position where other people are calling me an adult. I am hoping that we can find a different way to do it so that people don't end up like me.
That is my goal. Don't you, I'm talking to myself. I'm talking to all of you who are like me. I'm talking to all of you who are my age. Guys, we are not well. It is not okay that you sacrifice in quotation marks for your children, because your children will then learn to sacrifice in quotation mark for their children, and they will end up just like we are, sick. And when I say sick, I mean sick. Mentally sick. Physically sick. With a sick society.
Not sick with 2 C's.
No,
Yeah.
not sick with 2 C's. I
No.
mean the cancer-ridden,
It's not
drop
it's
dead
not-
in an airport, three Vicodin a
What-
day.
what
Like
hap-
how
what happened?
how many pills do you think it takes for me to get to this podcast every day?
What happened, though, that me and you started mourning the loss of people we didn't know more than the loss of those we do?
How did it start? Like,
Yeah, how did it start?
It might have
No,
started.
I think it's right there. I think that the thing that bothers me most, that makes me most sad about that feedback that you read, okay, was exactly the same reason why we started doing this podcast.
Okay.
It's because that person didn't even want to have the conversation.
No.
Had every single reason to not even have the conversation.
No, the conversation
and
is knowing.
that's what
Just-
happens.
The conversation is knowing. Just be quiet and let me continue to do the things that my family needs me to do.
Except that I'm fucked up today, and it's not because of the way football went, and it's not because of the way my family is, and it's not. I'm fucked up today because a fucking 21-year-old kid got off an airplane and fucking died.
And dropped where he stood. How? Oh God! See this, like people, you don't understand. I work with kids every day. I work with kids on their worst day in their lives. 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, all the way up to 18-year-old kids on the worst day of their lives. And I'm telling you, it's not their fault. It is your fault. It's your fault because all you've done since the society decided you were an adult and they were children is lie to them. That's it. That's the only lesson you've ever taught them is how to lie. And you think I'm being too harsh? Fuck you, I'm not. Because these kids aren't making it. And it's because you think that you're okay. You're not okay. None of us are okay. Guys, you're gonna have to get on board with changing, with trying to get better every day. Because this is not how it's supposed to be. Like I talked about self-care last week. Not last week, I'm sorry. It was last week, but last podcast talked about self-care. To define it. To say what it is and what it isn't. Because the truth is, you already knew what it was, but you think that the lesson that you were taught about self-care is the truth. And so you're repeating that lesson to your kids. And the lesson that we learned, that you learned, that your parents taught you about self-care is not true. What is that lesson? The first lesson that you learn about self-care. The first thing that your elders, your parents, your pastor, your teacher, your principal, the first thing that your leaders told you about self-care, if you engage in self-care, you are weak.
Right.
That makes you weak. It is a symbol of your weakness. Self-care is an outward manifestation of your inner immorality.
In the 1800s, they called it sin.
That is not true. It's a bold-faced, destructive lie. And it is what is killing us. We don't need doctors. We need the truth. We don't need medication. We need the truth. The truth is, your need to take care of yourself is natural. Your need to take care of yourself is not weakness. Weakness is denying yourself and saying, I don't have time. That's weakness. That's you giving in to the pressure. That's you giving in to the pattern.
It might be also that simple thing of you giving in to what other people say.
Yeah. And then grouping up and then saying it again. And then, oh, you feel the same way I do about this. Well, hell, let me hear it from you again. And we will repeat that lie, repeat that lie, repeat that lie until it becomes a truth, until the lie becomes a meme. And we all know that memes are true.
Right. We all know what happened on Facebook is true.
And suddenly, we feel completely justified in our fucked up thinking. Well, let me tell you something. Tattoo with Children is going to buck that trend. I knew episode 40 was the start of something, but now I'm starting to see what that something is. And yeah, you, we're going to fight a lot about this. And about other things. And we're going to get right back to it as soon as we get from this break.
My name ain't Mikey, but yeah, you know why? Because I don't give a fuck. That's why it doesn't matter whether I'm cool.
All right, you're back with Tattoo with Children. Now that I've taken a break and shed a few tears for you assholes, I'm ready to give it to you again. Look. Self-care is as much about how we view the future as it is how we view the present. Like, it's not really about making yourself feel better. It's about having a different way of being. That's what we're talking about. Because our current way of being is just a little sick. It's not. We're not supposed to just do our parenting thing and just do our work thing and just do our responsible thing and not do anything else. But that's what we end up doing. That's what we're saying. Even when we take our, I know a lot of you guys out there have a date night, right? And it's this, you just make it a point. So we got to have a date night. And the reason why you have to have a date night is because you want to catch up and talk about the things that you missed with your partner. Did we get all the doctor's appointments done? Did we get all the get all the bills paid? It becomes a strategy meeting, the date night.
Now, see,
and for some, I'm going to get yours. It's for some of you, it's because you are making sure that you stay connected as a unit, right? You're trying to make sure that that you guys haven't lost track of each other, and that's important. I'm saying that you have to do the exact same thing with yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, in other words, if the date night is important, then the you night is important. Now, the you night might not be able to happen every week. Maybe it's once a month. Maybe it's twice a month. But the you night is important, and you have to take it. Like, well, I don't have the money for it. Well, do you have the money to buy your kid anything extra? You do? Well, then buy your kid a little less this month, and then the next month, and the next month, so you have enough money for you, and then you take that for you. That's not harsh. That's what your kids want you to do.
I think also it's really a perspective you're talking about.
Yeah, it is.
It's not. That's the thing. I struggle with this concept of we don't have the money.
Yeah.
Because I've lived on this planet for 40 years. Mm-hmm. And I've known some pretty lean times.
Yeah.
So have you.
Yeah.
Lean, though, didn't mean we never struggled with access to showers.
Right.
Lean didn't mean we ever struggled with access to clean water.
Right.
Lean never meant we struggled with access to food.
Right.
May not have been the food we wanted.
Right.
May not have been. We may have ate out less. Mm-hmm.
we may have didn't buy the new pair of jeans. We might have bought a thrift store coat. We might have bought Walmart shoes.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't to the point where, like, at least I haven't had that time when I was on the street. Like, I haven't done that.
Mm-hmm.
People that have been on the street, like, if you're listening to this podcast and you're currently on the street, this probably isn't for you, because your whole existence is all about survival. I'm talking about people who are able to survive. They're to survive comfortably. But we've talked ourselves into a survival mode as if we are literally hand to mouth all the time.
And we're not.
And we're not.
We're not even close. So what we're talking about here is a mental perspective. What we're talking about here is what if you I saw Gary Vee put up something the other day. He said, "Make it till you make it."
Right.
Yeah, and people always laugh at that and they go, "Well, you don't understand my boss at Walmart." Dude, leave Walmart and go to Target. Leave Target and go to Sam's. Leave Sam's and start as a hired hand for a plumbing company. They're just even in 2019 with things as difficult as they are, there's always options, and those options generally get better the more honest you are.
Yeah.
I'm 40 years old, and I have never told someone I really need this job.
Right.
Not one time. I've never said, "I really need this job, sir. Will you please consider me?" That's how lucky I've been.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we were talking about it the other day, Ray. We had a real slow week at the tattoo shop, and I was saying, yeah, man, I might have to pick something part-time up so the younger ones don't have to suffer. And I mean, what? We listed like 6 jobs in 10 minutes?
Something like.
And it was like, okay, but if Ben goes and works at none of those places are looking for pirates. Like, that's just not going to work out.
So they're going to let you wear those cutoff, those cutoff pants?
No.
Every day. They're not going to, so you probably can't go there. I was like, hey, come down and work with the kids with me. I said, so you want me to start a gang? Have a roving band of teenage pirates marauding through the city? Like, yeah, you're right. You probably can't work with me. And it's not because Ben is unhireable. It's just because we're not there. Like we're literally not at that point where Ben's going to not wear his pirate pants. He's going to wear his pirate pants. So that's a privileged position to be in. That's my whole point. Like we act as if our kids will drop dead if we go get a massage. And it's just not true. Honestly, your kids are fine. That's the thing about it. Your kids are okay. They're perfectly fine. You just have the problem didn't start with your kids needing sandwiches in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
The problem started with you as a kid watching your mother work herself into an absolute exhausted rag before your father got home.
Mm-hmm.
And you said to yourself, that's how you do it. That's where it started. I mean, like,
a lot of it
it's like a perpetual motion machine.
Yeah, a lot of it too is not, again, recognizing how many habits we form in trauma. And those things we do to survive trauma are very important. But,
yes.
And again, I am not a therapist. I don't know much about that. But from what I have read, again, one cannot villainize the things we do to survive. But one can, after the fact, look at a situation and go, wow, I formed this habit. I did this thing during a traumatic experience.
Right.
I am not currently in a traumatic experience.
Currently, I'm okay. Why am I still doing this thing that is built to deal with trauma?
Yeah, and by the way, getting a flat tire on the way to work today,
That's not trauma.
Not a trauma. Okay? Popeyes being out of the spicy chicken sandwich,
That's a tragedy.
not a trauma.
It's not a trauma. It could lead to trauma. Let's not get it twisted.
That's fair. Houston losing on Sunday,
Not a trauma.
again, the things we survived, the things that really affected us the most, are very different things. But what happens is we get in a habit of saying, "Oh, I'm upset by this," and I'm just going to be totally real with you. A lot of times, what happens is we like the attention.
Yeah, that is true too.
You break your arm, and all of a sudden, you're everybody's favorite person.
I mean that there's this thing where we all want to be superheroes, right? So like say, well, I'm sick, but I'm still cooking dinner for my kids. I feel like shit right now, but I'm still running all of my errands, doing everything for my family. I'm sick, but I'm still going to work. I'm dependable. Okay, Bruce Banner. Okay, Diana Prince, whatever her fucking name is. You're not an actual superhero. You're just an asshole going around sneezing on everything.
Right.
I mean, I can't tell you how many, and again, this is what I do. Don't think that I'm yelling at you.
Right.
This is actually me I'm talking to more than anybody.
Well, you and I said after the first 4 or 5 podcasts that we were going to quit making it for other people and start making it for us.
Yeah.
Because what we recognized is that we were getting better.
Yes.
What we recognized is that something good was happening to us, and that was the reason we were going to continue, not for anyone else.
Yes. I follow, by the way, and if you look at my my Instagram, my Twitter, and all this stuff, like I follow parenting blogs all over the place, all kinds of how to be a dad and all these mom blogs. I listen to how everybody sees parenting. I try to, and the truth is we're all in that place where we're fairly sure that we're doing the same mistakes that were done to us, and we don't know how to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're choosing to laugh rather than cry. That's as accurate as I can say a parenting a general zeitgeist of parenting right now. We think we're making the same mistakes, but we don't know how to do anything different. And all I'm trying to, and I don't know how to do anything different either, but I do know how to talk about it. I do know how to converse. And if you're willing to converse, I think that we, me and you, the listener, can actually come up with some sort of action step towards getting better, because the first lesson we learned about self-care isn't true. That it's weak. That's not our parents will say things like, "Oh, you got sick? Well, back when I had that disease, back in 18-nothing, I had it triple as bad as you did, and I recovered in 3 days."
Mm-hmm. Right.
If you had what I had and recovered in 3 days, and you didn't have what I had, you had something different.
Mm-hmm.
B, you are complaining every day that I see you about your old man disease.
Right.
Your old woman disease. Every day. So you've either lost all your goddamn backbone, or B, haven't been sick until now, and C, you're a fucking liar.
Mm-hmm.
You're a pathological liar. You're lying about the past. You're lying about the present. And you'll be lying in the future until you're in the goddamn ground. So I'm not listening to you anymore. All right? These people told us lies. You've got to get a hold of that.
I had an interesting experience this weekend. I asked a question, and the person that I was asking the question to noticed that I got very frustrated immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And so they assumed that I was frustrated with them.
Right.
And I recognize that is, from an outside perspective, I put myself in either their shoes or a third person's shoes watching the exchange, and I identified that's probably accurate. That's probably how it seemed. The interesting thing about this that I think goes to your point is that I wasn't upset with them.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I asked the question, I was furious with myself.
Right.
Not because I asked the question, but because of how poorly I communicate.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I immediately started thinking, how could I communicate this better? And then I got even angrier. So I'm in my head right now.
Right.
I'm not even talking to the person.
Right. The conversation has stopped, and now Ben is literally working himself into a rage.
Yeah, and so
silence.
And so what do? I start putting my shoes on. You know, I start gathering my keys, putting my,
Yeah.
Why do I do that? Because I know I have to leave. If I don't leave, I'm going to lose my shit, and no one's going to understand why. Because nothing's happened. You know what I mean? Because I am so furious at myself right now because I don't know how to actually pose the question.
Right. Yes.
See, I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at Mike. I'm not mad at this person. I am literally losing my ever-loving mind that it's not just, okay, first of all, we've identified that I communicate poorly.
Right.
Second of all, I have taken all my wits about me, taken a deep breath, calmed down, and recognized that I don't even know what to say.
Right.
So what the fuck am I supposed to do with that?
Like, what do we do, people, when we don't? We trying to find answers and we can't ask questions. Like, this is, okay. We're going to take a quick break here on that note. We'll be right back.
I carry the club like Neanderthal. The choir got everybody dancing, dog. Yell on that X, I'm a sentinel, standing tall. No time to stand still, please don't meander, dog. They throwing jazz at me to challenge my rap savvy. I sway like Callaway, I'm ahead, you'll never catch me. Ain't worry about it.
You're back with Tattoo with Children. We're talking about a lot of things, but we're mainly talking about our inability. That now is more like our inability to accept the truth of ourselves, as much as it is about self-care. Because it's really hard, I think, to gain real data, like real things that you can say is true data, because we're so inundated with false data that we don't know. In other words, like. You think you're doing okay if you are having your one red wine a day and you're getting 6 hours of sleep. You think you're doing fine. But the truth is, you got your one red wine a day and you take your 6 hours of sleep and your joints still ache really badly and you're still kind of short with your 2-year-old. You know, I mean, it's like, are you really okay, or something else going on? My wife, you might not know this if you've missed some podcasts, but I'm married to one of the smartest women in the world. She has a doctorate in education. She is a professor at a university, director of library sciences, and she oftentimes is ahead of me on a lot of the things that I'm talking about. Like, in other words, I'm trying to do better with self-care, where she already has several self-care routines to keep herself straight. Like, she is a long-distance runner, and so she runs for therapy, and it works brilliantly. Like, I wish I had an outlet like that she does. But recently, she had a bout of illness, and so she couldn't run as much. And it kind of threw everything into a jumble for her. She's been kind of in a weird place ever since. And so she's now doing the smartest thing I think I've heard of anybody my age doing. So she's participating in this study where she's wearing a Fitbit-like device on her wrist for the next 10 days.
Okay.
And she has a glucose monitor in her arm for 10 days. 24 hours a day for 10 days. And her phone has an app on it that picks up all the data from both of those devices and gives it to her every 4 hours or so. And what she's gaining real data on the things that would affect your day the most. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Your blood sugar, your heart rate, right? How are you sleeping? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like, she's getting real data on that every 4 hours. And it has been absolutely fascinating to see in real time. Because in like the first couple of data sets, we learned that her heart rate can drop dangerously low during sleep. Like really, really low. Like they're short events, but they're scary events. We learned that when she takes in sugar, you've heard of the term sugar high, mm-hmm. and then sugar crash. Right. Dude, that shit is real. Like there are data points in her blood sugar. You can see like, oh, here you had an Andes Mint, and your blood sugar went almost to 140. And literally 20 minutes later, it is below 60. And then you can see her body like bounce it back and start to regulate it back out. And it's absolutely fascinating getting real-time health data because you don't think about that as being real. Like you hear about sugar rushes and sugar crashes, but like how many people can say, well, when I had that coffee from Starbucks, I felt good for a half an hour. And then I almost got into a car wreck and a road rage incident half an hour after that and related back to their experience at Starbucks. You don't do that.
Right.
But the truth is, it could be related to that sugar rush, sugar crash. Mm-hmm. You know, like and so the idea that she's getting actual true data about how her body reacts during the day, mm-hmm. I think is the smartest thing that anybody my age has ever done. Yeah, you know, mm-hmm. like because if I had that data, maybe I would maybe understand why some days I can take all of this out here in mm-hmm. the world, and some days I can't. Right. Like, you know, some days I'm fine with my coworkers, and some days I'm literally shaking with rage and thinking about burning the building down. Like I don't know all the answers because I don't have all the data. So I think that's a part of it too. Is that we have sort of talked ourselves out of getting actual information.
Now, does she correlate that with like regular check-ins of how she interprets how she feels? You know, like a journal of, you know, at this hour I felt this way, or I felt this way, or I felt this way. Yeah, independent of the data.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Mm-hmm. I'm not positive. Like she just started. She's only 3 days in. Okay. So she's only a third of the way through the whole process. It's like I said, it's a study for a company I think the purpose of this company is to dial in these devices, the Fitbit device and the glucose monitor. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so they're getting they're getting data on people who are trying to recover or trying to get into better shape. Yeah, see, I think so she was perfect for this because she's trying to recover from her illness.
Yeah, I think that next level that we're going to start seeing in this is on that Fitbit-like device. It's just popping up and saying, you know, recording for you, saying, hey, you know, move it this way or that way to tell us, you know, do you feel good, bad, you know, and right. Start correlating, you know, your mental, emotional state with the physical data that it's collecting.
In other words, it was just like, how do you feel right now? So I'm depressed. Well, go have 3 Andes mints and a vitamin B12.
Well,
vitamin.
but this brings in another data point that I've talked about before, but I don't know if I've ever put this direct spin on it. In addition to what y'all are saying, add to it this. I hear people say things like, I really like watching. What's that weird show everybody likes now about the girls in red?
The Handmaid's Tale?
Yeah. Okay. So they'll tell me like, oh man, I really enjoy The Handmaid's Tale. But here, I just want to point out an interesting fact. Every night after Mike says, just an example, he watches that. Mm-hmm. He also tells me the next day, he doesn't realize he's telling me, but throughout the course of the day, he'll tell me he didn't sleep well.
Right.
And he has a headache. Now, I'm not drawing that correlation. But what it caused me to realize over my life is that some of the things I was saying wasn't true. In other words, like, I really like reading Laura Ingalls Wilder books.
Right.
Okay? But then every time I did, I went through a depression for the next month.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
So even though I would tell people, no, I really like doing this, once I actually looked... Now, again, I'm not arguing that the data's connected.
Right.
Please understand that. The data may be connected more to what I was eating then.
Sure.
The data may be more connected to my heart rate or so on and so forth. But I also notice a parallel with the intake of food, the intake of fuel that I have. Uh-huh. It's very similar for the intake for my mind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I mean, the perfect example on that, to speak to what I truly do watch, I've been going through Man on a High Castle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've already noticed that, like, when I stop it for the night and go to lay down, I'm really anxious and, like, out of sorts for the next 20 or 30 minutes. And I have to tell myself, that's not real.
Okay. But interestingly enough, and here is what I continue to hear from people. I will say something like, okay, but try this show on HBO. I've said this to you.
Yeah.
And you, again, I'm not throwing anyone under the bus. I'm talking to myself.
Yeah.
You will tell me, Ray, well, Ben, that's great, but I don't pay for that.
Uh-huh.
Okay?
Yeah.
After I said, when I watch this show, I feel better and go to sleep immediately.
Right.
And you just told me, your friend, that you can't afford 27 cents a day.
I can't afford 27 cents to feel better, to sleep better.
To add HBO to your Amazon Prime.
Right.
Like, that literally, by the way, is the actual cost.
Yeah.
27 cents a day is what you would add
to like, assuming I had Amazon Prime, yes, which I do have Amazon Prime. And just for completion's sake, when Ben says, "Hey man, try this show," I'm probably going to try the show immediately.
100%.
The only time I've resisted it is this Mandalorian.
and that's totally fine.
We're gonna get there.
But I'm gonna. This is for the male listeners, okay? And it's not for everyone, by the way. And you cannot watch it around the kids.
Right.
But the show that I'm talking about has helped me for 4 years now. It's called Billions.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one. Jesus.
And it's not HBO, it's Showtime.
It's Showtime.
And I've got to tell you, I took about an 8-month break from it because it got to a really dark place.
Yeah.
Okay? And I thought I could do without it. But the truth of the matter is, I went back starting Friday and started watching it again.
Yeah.
Ray, I've slept better in the last 3 days than I have in a month.
That's awesome.
There's something about the way they write the show that it allows my brain to problem solve.
Uh-huh.
Okay? It allows me to find truth in story.
Uh-huh.
And it allows me to assimilate it in a way that doesn't, Mike, cause that anxiety.
Right.
You know, and I know exactly what you're talking about because the way you feel about Man in a High Castle was the reason I quit watching The Walking Dead. Dude, I fucking love The Walking Dead. It's one of my favorite shows.
It was the show itself I could appreciate, but that feeling you're talking about when I watched the first episode, right? Just it's way beyond spoilers now. To end that first episode with someone stuck in a freaking army tank, surrounded by walkers, I nearly freaked out. I literally turned that show off and told my wife we are never watching the rest of that show. Not doing it. I can't do it. I cannot handle it.
And I get that, but to me, that end of the world scenario, it also pulls to the Wheel of Time, which is apparently going to be an Amazon show.
Yeah, we're going to watch that.
And in one of the books, they say the dead are walking, but only some see them. So see that was another. There were a lot of correlations for the reasons I like The Walking Dead, but I just told you I love it. I feel great watching it.
Yeah.
I feel terrible afterwards.
Yeah. It's very difficult, I think, to process that one in particular, Walking Dead in particular, if you have a view of the world like the creator of The Walking Dead does. Like, if you think the way Kirkman does, then viewing that show, like, visually, is a fucking nightmare come to life. But I have a similar reaction to you two to Eckhart Tolle.
Okay.
Like Eckhart,
see, that's good.
Me, like honestly, whenever the world doesn't make sense, I run to Eckhart Tolle, and I always feel worse because he's basically Eckhart Tolle tends to say the thing that I think is true, and it's a horrible thing. He thinks it's helpful and hopeful. He's wrong in my opinion. But afterwards, like in a week, relying on that philosophy of the power of now and limited thinking and a higher self, those things will actually help me. But in this moment now, like I watched like probably, I don't know, an hour and a half of it last night, and I was absolutely. I mean, you heard me at the beginning of this podcast, guys. Like I was that hot for a reason.
But I think what we're discussing here is so important because you can say I love roast beef. But if after consuming roast beef, you're actually a worse person, why are you lying to yourself and telling yourself you love that?
Right.
Now you're saying, Ray, love drama. Ray, love pain.
Right.
In other words,
he does love me.
We've got to stop doing that.
Yeah,
we have got to start telling the truth and going, okay, I really enjoy The Walking Dead, okay?
Yeah.
But I don't love it because of the way it makes me feel.
It makes you feel bad, but I need to learn the lessons of it. Like, I need to hear Eckhart Tolle every once in a while, but it's not for enjoyment. Like, I don't have the power of now on my bookshelf to reread it. If I wanted to read The Power of Now, I need to go look for it and pull it up on a PDF. And then delete the PDF after I've read what I need out of it, and have to look for it again because
I'm not demonizing The Walking Dead. I'm not demonizing Eckhart Tolle. I'm not demonizing roast beef. What I'm saying is, there's a time and a place. I'm just lying to myself about what that time and place is.
Yes, exactly.
And if I'm going to honestly talk about self-care.
Yes.
This is not about what my wife does. It's not about what my kids do. It's not about what my boss does. And don't fool yourself, motherfuckers. We all have a boss.
Yeah, like we can't all be Dame Dash and never had a boss in our lives. Some of us actually have to live in the real world. And I think my boss is informing me that we're coming to the end of the show here. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that you've been listening to Tattoo with Children. I've been your host, Flavor Ray. You can find Tattoo with Children on Facebook at Tattoo with Children. You can find us on IG at Tattoo with Children. You can find us on Twitter at Tattooed With. You can find me on Twitter at Hunter Vanguard. That's one word, Hunter Vanguard. You can find Ben on Instagram at Black Crow Brother and at Black Spot Tattoo Company. You can find me on Instagram at Madara Shadow. And you can find Mike Payne on Instagram at CIO Payne and at Payne.points. That is Payne, spelled Payne. Guys, I'm going to tell you again, I'm probably going to tell you every goddamn episode until you hear me. Take care of yourself. Take fucking care of yourself, man. Because honestly, your kids are going to start doing the dumb shit that you do if you don't start doing something better. And that's not going to serve them well. All right? Love you guys.
All right. Love you.
We were born to bring it back, but it's more than basic. It's a portion of its rap, but the core is ancient. It's imported like a pack of some more observations. They're important like the fact that we're bored of fake shit. More creative, have the floor, so take it. Travel to the core is a normal place.